Good? Oh. Am I good? Okay. Hi, my name is Laura Giuliano, and I will be presenting on wrongful conviction, or the fact that there are so many innocent people behind bars right now. I'm not trying to change your perspective on the death penalty, but I hope that this presentation gives you some insight to incorporate into your own personal feelings about capital punishment. This is a great quote by former Florida Supreme Court Justice Gerald Cogan, in that anybody who understands the justice system knows innocent people are convicted every day. The problem, right now there are 200,000 innocent individuals in prison right now. This can range from 5 to 10% of the prison population. And most importantly, we have to remember that it can happen to anyone, including you and your loved ones. We're going to be covering two causes of wrongful conviction. The first is eyewitness memory. This is in 75% of all wrongful conviction cases. And secondly, false confessions. Of the 200,000 individuals in prison right now who are innocent, about 90% pled guilty. First, we're going to look at eyewitness memory. Every year, 75,000 people become witnesses to crime. Let's test to see how good you are. Yeah. Oh. Okay. It's not a long clip. I'm not sure why it's taking so long. But anyways, what this clip is going to be showing you is there's a bomber, and you want to pay attention to all the facts of the crime scene in case you're a witness to this. And then you'll be tested with a lineup to see if you can find the actual perpetrator of the crime. Okay, now let's check the lineup. You can call out whether or not you think who it is. Okay, so are there any guesses? One? Well, actually, it was none of them. This just shows how pervasive of an issue this actually is. The video we just watched was actually from a man called Gary Wells, who is one of the main proponents in the field and wants to raise awareness about how wrong witnesses to crime can actually be. He found that witnesses will always get between 26 and 80% of significant details wrong. This could be putting words into people's mouth, forgetting events, describing events that never even took place. Also, he found that people who choose the wrong person are just as confident as those who choose the actual perpetrator. This can have tremendous effects on the trial, especially if the judge and the jury hear a witness say, "I'm 100% confident that this individual committed the crime," when it wasn't even in fact the right individual. Unconscious transfers is when a mind drafts a familiar face to a role that wouldn't have otherwise been cast. You could be passing somebody in the food store, see them in a lineup, and then all of a sudden your mind will take that face, recognize that it's familiar, and say that he actually committed the crime. Police techniques can also skew identification. These are 3 examples in how police phrase questions that can have dramatic effects on the witness and can cause them to choose someone who in fact is innocent. Police can have a variety of reasons for doing so, but most importantly, this is usually communal unrest. They want to bring peace back into this society. Secondly, we're going to look at false confessions. This is a comic which says you have to write to remain silent, kind of playing on words here, saying that he has to give his confession before he's free to go. False confessions are when an individual signs a document as a direct result of methods used by investigators despite their innocence. I know it seems like crazy why somebody would actually sign saying that they were guilty of a crime that they didn't commit, but there are 2 methods that are very successful that are used by investigators. First is psychological and second is physical. First, we're going to look at psychological methods. This is demonstrated in the case of the Norfolk 4, which occurred in 1997. These 4 U.S. Navy sailors actually all signed false confessions. So we had to ask ourselves, why did 4 grown men confess to a crime they didn't commit? There were no outside witnesses. There was no physical evidence. In fact, they did have DNA linked to somebody else, and all 4 were exonerated by the DNA on the body of the 18-year-old victim. The case rested solely on confessions, and 3 out of the 4 of these men are still in prison, serving out 2 life sentences. There also can be physical methods. This is what we know as torture. In courtroom 302 by Steve Bogira, there's a building called Area 2 in Chicago's justice system. This can be, a lot of the methods that they use are electrical shocks. The solutions. What we can do is we can videotape both interrogations and experiences with witnesses. This is something that Democratic nominee Barack Obama is greatly advocating, and he has actually caused some reform in the state of Illinois. So this is something that's becoming more of a political issue. Also, we should ask witnesses to rate their certainties so juries and judges are aware if there's any doubt, as we have our catchphrase, beyond a reasonable doubt. Also, we need to train police and investigators so they understand the associated risks of how they phrase questions to witnesses. And also, we have to double check all the work done to make sure that nothing has slipped by. There are 2 Innocent Project contacts in New Jersey that, in case any of you wish to pursue this further, one is in Princeton and one is in Newark. What we had to realize is that it's happening now. In July 2007, Byron Hazley was released from Elizabeth, New Jersey, after spending 22 years in prison for a crime he didn't commit. He spent nearly half his life in solitary confinement, and he was finally released. But this isn't something that we should be waiting around for. We should be taking the measures and causing the reform in the system to prevent such injustices. What New Jersey is doing. It's one out of 22 states that has a law that compensates exonerees. This is usually financial. But they don't provide any services like job training and tuition. These people have spent sometimes decades in prison, and what they need is reentry programs to reintegrate them back into society. And also usually it's about $20,000 for each year of wrongful incarceration, or twice the amount of your income at the time of wrongful incarceration. So what's 1 year in prison worth to you? I'm sure it's not $20,000. We cannot and must not wait any longer to help these individuals, because another day that we wait is another day that these individuals have to wait for their day of freedom to come again.